Hello, and welcome to today's presentation of Best Practices for Grant Writing, presented from the Office of International and Foreign Language Education. My name is Dr. Brian Jenkins, and I am a Program Officer on the Advanced Training and Research Division of the International and Foreign Language Education Office, or IFLE for short. Today's webinar will be a basic and general overview of how best to prepare for and submit a successful Title VI application. Today's presentation is being broadcast on YouTube Premiere. So if you are joining us live, please don't hesitate to use the chat box to interact with us and ask any questions you may have. If you are not watching today's presentation live, then we encourage you to reach out to us by email at any time you have questions. The IFLE email address is displayed on the screen now. We also encourage you to interact with us by subscribing to our newsletter. You will also see a link displayed on the screen to our Google map of current grantees. This is a great way for you to explore our programs and learn about individual projects that have successfully made it through the grant writing process. So let's get started. Over the next few slides, I will describe how to start the grant application process. Before you actually put pen to paper, you will want to organize any and all preparation materials that will be needed for the application. As a federal agency, the Department of Education, and by extension IFLE, utilizes the Federal Register to publish official notices, such as a notice inviting applicants, or an NIA. You may hear or see individuals outside of the department refer to this as an RFP, or a request for proposals. However, these are officially called a notice inviting applicants, or again, an NIA. Once the NIA is released through the Federal Register, all crucial information needed to proceed with formally writing your grant application will be included, such as critical due dates, regulatory approval, competitive preference priority, and funding limits. It would also be prudent to review some of the most recent successful grant applications prior to writing your own application. These can be found on IFLE's website at the link shown on the screen. There is also contact information for our current grantees listed on our site if you would like to reach out to them. You will also want to continue to cultivate or begin to make partnerships within your respective institutions. It is important that your application can demonstrate that institutional support as well as external support, whether that be through the community or your institution's administration. This would also be the time to start gathering a team of like-minded individuals with international and grant experience that can jointly work the application. Along the same lines, you will want to start early on collecting any data points referenced as necessary or suggested in the NIA, whether that be lists of relevant courses on your campus or dedicated faculty bios and CVs. You will also want to start to think of who would be willing to provide a strong, positive, and robust letter of support. For further guidance surrounding how to properly organize and get started on your application, you can follow the second link on the screen and reach out to your respective program officer. Once you have a firm footing with all or most of the previous slides' points addressed and decide that you are ready to start your application, you will want to move expeditiously. So, for example, for those of you potentially interested in applying for the fiscal year 22 or fiscal year 2022 National Resource Centers and/or the Foreign Language Area Studies Grant Program competitions, you should be well on your way through the bullet points on the previous slide by now. It is important to refer to the language used in the NIA, but not to the point where your application becomes laden with jargon. It's important to use active verbs, definitive words, and words that paint a picture and tell a story. Also, while it is great and advisable to point out the successes of previous fruitful grant projects, you will want to focus more heavily on innovative and fresh ideas and outcomes that would result if you were awarded the funding. It is critical that you address all the selection criteria provided within the NIA, and that you provide clear, detailed, and robust plans of operation in your chosen comprehensive objective and quantifiable evaluation plans. Detailed budgets and accompanying narratives are also important to include. Enough detail should be provided in each section that a layperson would be able to understand your proposed project. Along those same lines, it may be helpful to put yourself in the shoes of prospective reviewers of your grant application and think of how you would want an application presented to you to appear. Once you have successfully composed your application and submitted it through the proper channel, it will be routed to a panel of reviewers. I tend to think that it is beneficial if you approach your application writing process from the viewpoint of a reviewer. That includes abiding by the selection criteria spelled out in the NIA and the accompanying regulation. Also, reviewers look favorably on applications that provide cross-references between the budget narrative and the actual budget. Within that narrative, you will want to thoroughly explain how your prospective activities are of high quality and directly relate to the purpose of the program, that the costs are reasonable in relation to the objectives, that your development plan demonstrates how the proposed activities will contribute to a strengthened program, and a description of the long-term impact of the project. It will be important to clearly delineate where a reviewer can reference corresponding information in your application. You will also want to speak to the quality of staff and staff resources, the significant impact your project will have on the university, community, region, and the nation, and your respective non-discriminatory practices. And again, it is imperative that you start this process early, such as registering with grants.gov to ensure any potential glitches or issues are dealt with swiftly. And similar to the same mantra you may have heard while completing your own graduate studies, remember to say frequently and in multiple locations. Now we will move into specific application situations. If you are a completely new applicant, meaning that you have never applied for the grant program that you are now interested in, we would strongly suggest that you read over the application package and application instructions document that details additional words of advice. You will also want to refer to the technical review form closely and frequently, as this is the same document that the panel reviewers will use as a rubric as they review your application. If you are a returning applicant that has not been successful in the past, we would encourage you to review the comments that were included and sent to you in your previous technical review forms. It is very helpful to see specific areas where the panel reviewers thought that there was room for improvement, as well as the areas that the reviewers thought that you demonstrated strengths. And as I said several minutes ago, focus your energy on how you will progress towards the achievement of project goals. If you are a current grantee at the time of the airing of this presentation and you plan on reapplying for additional funding, you will want to draw the reviewers to how you plan on incorporating innovative concepts into your current and successful projects. For those smaller institutions that are interested in building their capacities, you will definitely want to start now on building that institutional commitment. That includes commitment and support letters that demonstrate your department, college, or university support that will be available to the project without providing specific dollar amounts. These formal endorsements are absolutely critical. We have also included an overall list of best practices that summarizes many of the points I've mentioned. I do want to draw your attention to the bullet points regarding being concise and following recommended page limits. The peer review panel is a group of vetted subject matter experts from outside of the federal government who will evaluate your grant applications using a set of criteria listed in the technical review form. Keeping that in mind, you will want to concisely describe your center or institute or program's unique characteristics in terms of mission and resources, including faculty, staff, library, information systems, outreach, and your internal and external constituencies. There are page limits listed on the application, and while you can go a page or 3 over that limit, I wouldn't push it too far. Try to put yourself in the seat of the reviewer. It also wouldn't hurt to have someone outside of your grant writing cohort to read your application for clarity before it is submitted. And then you will see we mentioned institutional commitment again because it is that important. There should be significant buy-in for your proposed program. We hear and read several questions that contain misconceptions that potential grantees share with us, and we thought that this may be a good time to address some of those so that these misunderstandings won't give you pause about starting to gather materials for upcoming grants of interest. We will discuss several additional confusions at the upcoming webinar, but for today, we are sharing the most popular 3. While any U.S. institution can apply for Title VI programs, you will want to ensure that you have the capacity and the commitment to conduct a wide range of activities. Finally, I personally wanted to exhibit some of the successful projects under our FLAS and NRC program. On the screen and the following screen, you can see the websites of some of the ongoing projects being conducted by some of the grantees in the Africa, Canada, International, and Western Europe world areas. You will learn more details about these programs in the subsequent webinar, but feel free to check out any of the present Title VI programs by visiting the links that will be provided in the next slide. I do want to thank you again for attending today's webinar. Again, my name is Dr. Brian Jenkins, and I want to wish you all the very best of success in the upcoming grant cycles. Stay well and take care, everyone.